Greetings and welcome to Legacies of Wavryn, Lore of the Endelment. This will be chapter 40 of this reading. Despite all that they've been through, I couldn't believe that a simple piece of knowledge could have changed Amber and Jewel and make them hostile against each other. Even so, I couldn't interfere with their struggle, both because I couldn't muster the energy to do so, because I didn't want to get involved with their stupidity. Neither did anyone else. Amber and Jewel had to handle their problems on their own, no matter what it could bring. I just wish that they could have ended it sooner and somewhere away from me, because I couldn't stand them bickering over and over and over and over again. Luckily, sadly enough, that's exactly what happened. And wouldn't you know it, that day so happened to come. Monday. I loathe Mondays. That damned Monday came around and, oddly enough, I felt greatly rejuvenated, but not complete. There were a few things that I still couldn't do, and my cops were still as vicious as ever. Yet no amount of healing in the whole universe could help me with what I had to put up with between those retarded half-bloods. It was almost as worse as the arguing between the Donoviches. Their bickering continued even when they slept. It was unbelievable and very irritating. However, I was strict when it came to interfering with other people's problems, so I let them continue, as stupid as that was. I was watching the news about more human bullcrap, but the storm's still raging outside. I sat in my relaxed position at my desk once again, then randomly remembered something and reached for it in my pants pocket. I pulled out my badass glasses that I stole, while I said, I forgot about these. With that, I put them back on, just for fun. Strangely, Wolf felt she needed to stand at my right side as she faced the TV, while Nanye also wanted to be nearby at my left, sitting on the left edge of my desk. Yabeki, though, was watching Amber and Jewel in the kitchen having their argument. Serena was finally doing nothing that had to do with cooking, and she just sat on the left side couch to relax and watch the news. Baraku slept on the right side couch, his back turned to the TV. Shadow and Light accompanied Baraku and lay next to each other at the outer end of the couch, with Shadow's head placed over Light's neck as they slept. Light, of course, was just being himself, hovering over Baraku's head as he whistled that familiar tune once more. I heard the refrigerator door slam shut, then Amber yelled, "I'm sick of your be nice to everyone attitude. No one on this godforsaken planet, other than our friends here, deserves any kind of kindness from us. They're all a bunch of assholes and shitheads." "But they're still a part of us, sis," Jill said, trying not to raise her voice as much. "No matter how you think of it, we need to stick together. It's part of our nature, for both of them. None of those bastards are a part of me. Ever since I found I could use my powers, I've looked at humans as if they were nothing. As they all are. So what about you then?" "I have nothing to do with humans. I'm no longer part of their pathetic race, regardless of what my blood says. I am not human. I am a Kexan, and I'll be damned if you or anybody else says otherwise. And I'm sure as hell not going to compare myself to them ever again." Just then, I heard a loud slap come from the kitchen. I bent my head back to look upside down towards the half-bloods to see that Jewel had her right hand raised slightly over her left shoulder. Jewel started to cry as she lowered her hand and said, "Enough, sis. You win. Just, please, stop talking about them that way in front of me. I can't stand it." Still slightly looking away from the hit, Amber crushed the unopened soda can in her right fist, bursting it open and spraying the contents throughout the kitchen. She turned and glared at her sister with such hatred that it seemed as though she was going to do more than just murder her. After a few seconds, Amber dropped the can and quickly clenched her right hand back into a fist. She then struck Jewel in the left side of her face, pushing her sister back into the counter across the kitchen. Wolf and Nanye moved to tend to Jewel, while Blight stopped whistling for the moment to listen in on what was happening as everyone turned to watch the scene. Furious, yet trying to keep calm, Amber said, "I'm fed up with you, Jewel. I want to end this shitty little struggle between you and me." Wolf and Nanye helped Jewel up to recover. While Amber walked over to the outer edge of the kitchen, she continued to face her sister and said, "We'll settle this my way, because talking isn't something that can satisfy me as a reborn Kexan." She then raised her left hand to point outside and continued, "We'll settle this out there, where everyone else can see. So that way, when you lose, you'll not only see that I'm right, but you'll be publicly and deeply humiliated." Crying from what her sister had done physically, Jewel quietly said, "Please, sis, don't do this." "I have had it with your kindness," Amber yelled, lowering her hand. "So you best be out there in the next 5 minutes, or I will come back in here, drag your sorry ass out there, and chuck you into the dirt that you should worship underneath my feet as your elder sister." I turned away and thought, shit, she's mean. Amber calmly left the room and jumped down to Central Park from the balcony to wait for Jewel, where I thought, what's up with the park? Man, New York does suck to live in. Why am I here for that matter? Everyone suggested to Jewel that she shouldn't fight, but the Half-Blood wouldn't let anyone else fight for her. She wanted to handle this on her own, even if it wasn't the way she wanted. So, once again, everyone except Baraku and Blight went out onto the balcony to watch. Jewel hopped over the balcony wall, gently landing on the sidewalk, then motioned out onto the broken up ground of the park. Once again, JJ stood away from the scene and was waiting to watch another fight, while Amber stood waiting at the center as she faced the hotel with her arms crossed over her chest. Jewel walked out and stood with her fists down at her sides, holding them loosely, as if not wanting to even think about using them. Watching from the balcony, Joey said, "Aw, do they have to fight? I like them. They shouldn't have to hurt each other. They're better than this. It makes no sense for them to battle." Just as he ended his sentence, without realizing beforehand that his wife was raising her right fist, Nanale struck the back of her husband's head with a mean punch and barked, "Shut it, Joey!" After Joey's yelp in pain, not only from the hit from the Alikhan's fist, but also from his forehead striking the wall he leaned over, Nanale quickly calmed down as she looked out at the Half-Bloods and said, "Maybe it's for the best. Hopefully they'll come to their senses before one gets really hurt. But I just want to see them fight. It'll be interesting." No kidding, I thought. But what would happen if one died? Just gonna have to wait and see. Though Amber and Jewel were still only half Kexan, they brought out a decent fight. They gave each other a good stare down. They asked one another if they wished to continue with the fight. And if it was still going to press forward, they would charge their energy until it was flaring off their bodies, ready to use anything and everything at their disposal to end it. For the first few minutes, Amber and Jewel continued to bicker between each other. Then Amber barked at Jewel with something very vulgar. Couldn't recall what it was, but I knew it quieted both of them. Afterwards, they readied themselves, then with one crash of lightning and thunder, they jolted towards each other. The Half-Bloods swung their fists and feet at one another wildly, while also jolting around the city. Though they didn't have a flashy show for us, they were still ferocious with it, along with being brutal. Even at their low level of power, Amber and Jewel could still make loud sonic booms from their hits and produce powerful shockwaves, breaking anything nearby. Though the fight was a bit interesting to watch, waiting to see who will win between two half-blood siblings, everyone on the balcony was still kind of bored. So most of us just talked about other things while we watched, nearly completely oblivious to the fight and what was going on anywhere else. Serena and Fox talked about what would be best for the Alicans if she were to do anything and everything to get Wolf's respect back. Shadow and Light, randomly, watched the fight as if it was the greatest thing in the world. They must not get a lot of chances to see things like this. Wolf and Nanye just joked and giggled as they gossiped immature things about me, which I found both uncomfortable and irritating. Women. Seriously annoying sometimes. I, of course, was watching the fight in silence and boredom, yet also wondering why no one around me would shut the fuck up. Figuring that the fight wasn't much, I decided to listen in on Serena's and Fox's conversation. Yet with my ears as they were, I couldn't be completely discreet. I had to act as if I was watching the fight between Amber and Jewel, while still having my ears turned to my left towards Serena and Fox slightly to listen in on them. "Trust me," Serena said. "If you just respect Wolf's customs, she'll forget everything that you've done and start respecting you again." "But how can I?" Fox asked. "I can't figure out what she wants. She just gives me mean stares and angry shouts." "Well, maybe that's the thing. She probably wants you to stand aside for a while. So just sit back and watch what she likes and try to get involved when she's enjoying herself." Just then, either Amber or Jewel shot an energy blast that didn't hit one of them, and it flew over towards us, crashing into the ceiling just above me. When it struck, I ducked in surprise, then motioned back up and shouted, "Watch it, you two!" And then went back to listening in on Serena's and Fox's conversation, staring down at the fight. Fox sighed a little, then said, "I'll try, but she might still look down on me." "You could just wait it out. Who knows? She just might forget about the whole thing if you don't try to connect to her in any way for a while." Fox gave an annoyed moan as she placed her elbows on the balcony wall and her head under her hands. She then bent her ears back and said, "That's torture to me. I can't stand not socializing with my best friend. I'll go insane." Serena turned her head to her right to look away from the Alicans as she quietly said, "Creator, this is hopeless." She then glanced up at me to see my ears quickly move away from her, trying to keep myself from being noticed. However, that didn't fool my wife, and she said, "You little shit." Another blast struck the building, but it hit far off to my left and possibly into another person's hotel room. I assumed no one got hurt. At the same time, I looked at my wife, acting confused, and asked, "What?" Serena turned her head forwards, but still had her eyes on me. She gave a devilish smile and said, "Spying on us now, are you, Ray? You know better than to do that, you naughty boy." "I wasn't spying." "Don't bullshit me," my wife said as she turned herself completely to face me, leaning on her left arm on the balcony wall. "I saw your ears aimed over here. So what did you hear?" "Nothing," I said as I turned to watch the fight. My ears just twitched. "Whatever," she said as she turned away to watch the fight as well. Unfortunately, I had to actually focus on the fight just so that I didn't have to deal with Serena. I saw Amber strike Jewel hard in the stomach with her right fist, then she quickly spun around from her left and kicked the back of her sister's head with her left foot. As Jewel went to hit the ground, Amber countered immediately and kicked her sister in the face with her right foot, throwing Jewel back, slamming her into the ground at the end of the park a ways from us. Once her sister was down, Amber yelled, "Why don't you just change for the better of our kind, Jewel? It'll be a lot easier if you just accept to be a Kexan and forget about the human living within you." Jill struggled to brace herself up on all fours, then looked up at her sister with her left eye sliced and said, "No, I won't. My human blood, it's mine. As you said, it's a living being. I can't murder it like you have." As Jill stood herself up, she said something that struck me as odd, but interesting, as she continued. "When we still believed we were humans, sis, you and I never fought. And it hurts me deeply to know that you and I stand against each other now. But unlike you, I didn't want to change. I knew it wouldn't mean anything. I still believe, to this very day, that I am 100% human no matter what. And from what I've learned, even as a Kexon, we are no different from them." "Shut up!" Amber shouted. "Just shut your goddamn mouth!" What happened next both amazed me and scared me, while it destroyed the very fabric of life and altering my world as I knew it completely. Amber stood up straight and looked to the sky as she screamed to the clouds above in a fierce rage. Shortly after that, her hair color changed to dark forest green, just like her eyes, and her dark green aura flared half a foot from her body. Amber had somehow become the Endelment. Or an Endelment. It was confusing and quite impossible, but there wasn't any other way of explaining it. Just like me, her energy flared, then went to burst out for a moment and covered part of the city with a translucent dome. It wasn't powerful enough to make some of us have to brace ourselves, like Shadow, Light, and I, but everyone else had to. Yet that didn't make sense. The legend never spoke of more than one. When Amber lowered her head to look over at her sister, the dome reverted and her aura flared and sparked wildly, while she yelled, "I'm sick of it! I'm sick of you! Always reminding me that I'm human. I hate humans. I've always hated them." She then lowered her voice slightly and continued, "Though through my entire life, I never thought I was actually different from them. I knew there was something that wasn't completely right. I just couldn't prove it. So I've just put up with these idiotic and pitiful things called humans. Now that I've changed, I'm going to teach you and all these other worthless mortals." Amber raised her voice again and shouted, "Not to fuck with me!" Hearing that, Joel went silent, possibly in shock, and had tears pouring down her face. However, the rest of us were completely thrown off at what happened. Amber's aura blew out another shockwave that broke apart the ground within the area of the park, and she began assaulting her sister once more, tossing her around the city like a rag doll. Jill had no ability to fight back, not even so much as raise a hand in defending herself. As I stared down at Amber, in fear and in shock myself, I said, "What's going on? How did she do that?" Somehow excited at what she was seeing, Serena said, "Oh, awesome. She can do it too." I looked over at my wife, angry as to how she reacted to the situation, and said, "What are you so cheerful about, Serena? This is bad news. If there's more than one Endelment, then not only will our world fall, but so will this entire galaxy, possibly the whole universe." She just looked at me with a smile and said, "What are you talking about? She's like you. That means you have a chance." Confused, I asked, "What? Don't you get it? In the legend, the Endelment is not only chosen to end all element in our world, it also has to destroy itself in order to completely break the cycle of power. And if she's the Endelment, as a means to test all of us, then you can continue to live. Maybe even forever, because she'll remove Dominic from existence and your rival will never be able to lay a finger on you, you're free. Damn it, Serena. I barked as I turned to face my wife. This isn't a game. Only one person can be the Endelment. And seeing as that I'm already getting ready to end our empire as we know it, that makes it me. Eyeless isn't going to do it. My brothers are dead, and no one else in existence has even the slightest bit of power to stand against the Dominion. Well, what if you're wrong? She asked, turning towards me. What if we're all wrong? That's even better. What if the Endelment is just a ruse? A way to test us to see who can end this madness once and for all? Serena then looked back down at Amber and asked, What if there's more? What if Endelment is a whole new species of life? Finally, having no more tolerance, I grabbed Serena by her dog collar with my left hand and pulled her towards me. Then with her raised to be eye level with me, I yelled, Have you gone insane? The name of legend itself says everything. Endelment. The true ender of everything. The bringer of death to existence. The one to cast total darkness upon our world and its way of life. Serena panicked and struggled to break free of me as she said, Okay, Zaec, I understand. Now please, let me go. You're scaring me. I better, because I'm the one that can end this shit. So don't stand there and act as if everything is going to be okay. Stop it, Zaec. Nanye barked. She grabbed my left arm from behind and tried to pull me away. That's enough. Let her go. Fox tried to help pull my wife away while she yelled, You've made your point. Now let Serena go. However, no matter how hard they tried, my grip stayed firm. But when Serena's collar started to rip from me, twisting it, not realizing that I was starting to choke her, Wolf stepped in and jolted to stand between my wife and I, where she punched my forearm with her right fist. Quickly followed by that, the Alcan struck my chest with her right elbow, then crossed her left arm over her stomach and rapidly struck my torso with just her left index and middle fingers 10 times. With the punch, she released my hold on Serena, while the strike to my chest was to push me back and the rapid strikes were to paralyze me. I never understood how Wolf could do that so easily and so fast without me knowing, but she did it only when I took things too far. I dropped to my knees and fell into Nanye's arms, where she placed my back up against the sliding glass door and sat me down. Wolf just stared at me with an angry gaze for a few seconds, then calmly looked over at Serena and asked, You alright, my lady? Serena just stared at me in fear. She also dropped to her knees and asked, What's gotten into him? Why is he acting like this? I don't know, Shadow said as he casually looked over at me, but I'm getting bored of this fight now. With that, the Fox God walked into the living room as Light followed him in and said, Same here. Take care, you two. Forget about it, my lady, Wolf said. Just go inside and rest. You and I will deal with him once he recovers. How long is he going to be like this? Nanye asked. Wolf glanced over at the Abeki and replied, Don't worry about him. Both Alicans helped my wife up and walked her into the living room, while Wolf said, Come on, my lady. Let's just get you inside. I'm sure you and Ray will feel better once we settle this thing out. Then, as a means to get a laugh out of my wife, Wolf said, And of course, by we, I mean me. Okay? She walked back outside and headed towards me, then gave one hard kick with her right foot into my left side shield. What in the Creator's glorious name is the matter with you? Oddly enough, when the Alicans kicked me, I was able to move again, yet I just stayed put because I didn't want to be struck by her again. However, while I kept myself seated, I adjusted my glasses and replied, Come on, Wolf. You and I both know that the Endelment can only be one person. I then looked up at her as I continued, And even if there were more than one, that would be even more catastrophic than just our world being destroyed. Wolf calmed down as she responded, "Well then, it looks like we need to brush up on our history, because that's not what I've heard. And I didn't know that you thought that way about it." "Me either," Nanye said as she looked over at Wolf confused. "I was told that only the Endelment could wield both Rakar and Rokar, and that he or she was the only one that could use the most devastating of techniques." Figuring what the Ibeki was talking about, a power I had read about with Grandpa long ago, but didn't really get too deep into, I asked myself, is it that Shatter? Hearing my words, yet not understanding what I was thinking, Wolf glanced at me and suggested, "Shatter?" She then looked at the Ibeki and continued, "Well, that is a difficult technique, but I highly doubt it to be devastating. The flaw with that technique is it can't cut through solid objects. Yet from what I noticed with Jijiku's pistols, it can give anything inanimate a hell of a beating." Nanye responded, "Shatter's not what I was thinking. I heard there was something that can destroy all things regardless of its size or how powerful it was. However, I don't know its incantation, but it did sound familiar." "That's strange. I've never heard of that." "I heard of a few things," Joey said, yet was quickly silenced when Nanale slapped him upside his head with her left hand. Uncaring to the conversation at that point, I turned to face the balcony wall and asked, "Can I get up now?" "What's stopping you?" Wolf asked. "You," I replied as I looked back up at the Alikins. "What else?" Wolf placed her hands on her hips and said, "Well then, get up. You're going to miss the end of the Half-Bloods fight." Like that matters. I stood up with Nanye as she gently held onto my right arm with both of hers, then let go as I said, "Now I'm just irritated and want to figure out what the hell is going on again." "Oh, boo-hoo, get over it," Wolf said as she turned to watch the fight. "You're lucky Serena's far more tolerant and caring than I am, and I'm your personal servant. Because if it were me in her position, I would have dropped you, in more ways than one." "Sure thing," I said, uncaring as I leaned over the balcony wall on my forearms, crossing them slightly. As I looked back down at the fight, I felt the need to annoy Wolf a bit, and said, "However, you really don't want to fight me, because you like being my loyal." The Alkin smiled as I continued, "Fuzzy, soft." She then giggled, and I said, "Nice and cute little." I then purposely lowered my voice, adjusted my glasses, and whispered, "Kitty kitty cat cat." "What did you call me?" Wolf shouted as she turned towards me with her ears and tail spiked up in anger, along with each strand of her wolf fur standing on ends. At the same time, she quickly stomped her right foot on the floor, jerked her arms down, while beginning to snarl at me after she screamed. I smiled and said, "Oh, boo-hoo, get over it, Wolf." Just then, Fox walked out as she looked over at her friend and asked, "What's the matter?" Wolf was completely oblivious to the Fox Alikins, and she kept her focus on me and yelled, "Do I look like a damn cat to you, Zaec?" Just as a joke, I looked over at the Wolf Alikins and replied, "You did on TV, remember?" "I ought to beat you senseless." Wolf started to snarl even louder, then Fox suggested, "Maybe we should just go inside." "Maybe you should shut your mouth," Wolf barked as she turned to Fox, standing normally. "You know damn well that I hate being called something I'm not, especially if it's something that I despise." She then raised her voice and yelled, "And I for one despise cats." Fox just bent her ears down and back. She gave a sad expression, while Wolf continued, "You know, you'd think by now you would have realized that I didn't care for your company, especially not after what you did." Alright, Wolf," I said as I looked over at the furious Alikins. "That's enough. Besides, she's not really the one you should be mad at. Wolf just went silent and continued to glare at Fox. And after a few seconds, I said, "Wolf, don't make me have to use my full authority." With that, the Wolf Alicans glanced over at me with a slightly sad expression, then turned away from Fox, depressed, to watch the fight as she said, "Yes, my lord." I grew a bit more angry with her and quickly barked, "Wolf!" Wolf turned her head towards me with her ears bent down, then motioned to face Fox as she said, "Sorry that I've been so mean to you late." "Aw, that's okay, Wolfie," Fox said as she quickly moved forward to hug her friend tight. She then moved to quietly speak into Wolf's right ear and asked, "By the way, what did he mean by full authority?" "Don't worry about it. Besides, I still feel that I shouldn't be talking to you. I'm still a little angry." "That's okay," Fox said as she started to massage Wolf's ears with her fingers. "A little is better than very." I turned to continue watching the fight between Amber and Jewel, where it seemed that Jewel had given up. I couldn't figure out what she was trying to do, but from what it seemed, she just didn't have the energy to even raise her fists against her sister anymore. She could hardly kneel, let alone stand. Amber stopped attacking and stood up just a couple feet in front of her sister. Then as Jewel did some very heavy breathing and knelt down on her left knee, Amber said, "So that's it then. You've finally given up. Is that right? Because I was just starting to like your irritating speeches, seeing as they've helped me gain this tremendous power." Jewel just stared up at her sister with her right eye as she slightly swayed from side to side. Yet even with her in silence, Amber continued, "Go on, Jewel. Convince me. Tell me that I need to remember the human within me. Stop me from killing you. Prove to me that I'm wrong." Amazingly, Jewel was calm and had just a blank expression towards her sister. Yet somehow with that, she too shocked me and changed her form. However, instead of being angry, she somehow figured out how to change by being peaceful. With her transformation, Jewel's hair color changed to a simple brown, just like her eyes, and her aura flared off her body as she carefully stood up and said, "I don't need to, Amber, because even if you destroy me here and now, you'll only be reminded of how human you really are, seeing as you'll be living with regret for the rest of your life." Amber grew angry at that and asked, "So, you still wish to stand in my way, even if it means death?" "It is not I who stands in your way. You should already know that." "Enough!" Amber quickly swung her right fist at Jewel and struck the left side of her sister's face, but Jewel barely budged from the attack. However, Amber wasn't about to stop there. Even though Jewel showed no signs of being hurt, Amber still pushed to attack her sister with all her might. Oddly enough, even as she stood there, Jewel still couldn't hide the fact that she was feeling the pain. Her blood dripping out the sides of her mouth, she flinched slightly from each hit. After a few minutes, Amber stopped to take a breather, while Jewel still just stood there calmly. As the two of them recovered, Amber asked, "Why won't you just fall?" "Because, no matter how much anger you use against me, no matter what you do to me in any way, you can't keep me from being who I really am. As I said before, it is not I who stands in your way. It is all of us humans, which means things are just getting started for you." Amber pulled her right arm back, charging a large amount of energy into her hand as she said, "Even if humans can stop me, you won't be around to see it happen. You'll just be one less weakling to deal with." Meanwhile, at the time when Jewel transformed, I placed my right hand on my head and said, "Creator, this is ridiculous. We need to stop them now." "Well, at this point," Nanale said, "no one except you can interfere. They're too powerful for any normal person to handle. Joey glanced at his wife and said, "Aw, come on. Can't we at least try?" "Joey, unless you want brain damage, you best be quiet." I chuckled at that, then quietly said, "Need a brain before it can be damaged." "Thanks, Ray," Joey happily said, taking what I said as a compliment. However, after a few seconds, he realized that I had actually insulted him and said, "Hey, wait a minute." Natalie and I laughed. Then I looked over at the two Alicans to find Fox was becoming saddened from watching the fight. Didn't know exactly what was going through her mind, but it felt as though it might only get her into more trouble. Watching Jewel being struck and not wanting to fight back, Fox said, "Come on, Jewel, don't give up." "Doesn't look like she'll win this fight," Wolf bluntly said. "That blast will probably even kill Amber herself." Fox bent her ears down and placed the tip of her left thumb claw into her mouth to nibble at it. Then as I looked back towards the Half-Bloods, I said, "Just remember, Fox." Surprised, the Alicans looked over at me as I continued, "At this point, no matter what anyone does, something of value will be lost." When I said that, I noticed that Wolf was listening in on me with her right ear. I wasn't about to expose her. She knew that I was warning Fox about the situation between the two Half-Bloods. But Fox had to learn for herself. Be it the easy way or the hard way. Even though I warned her, Fox had no idea of what I had said. However, she just continued to watch the fight in sadness, while lowering her left hand away from her face. When the fight came down to where Amber was getting ready to kill Jewel, Fox finally snapped and yelled, "I can't take it!" The Fox Alicans jumped up onto the wall of the balcony and jolted towards the Half-Bloods to stop the fight, while Wolf leaned over and shouted, "You bitch! Get back here!" Calmly watching, I thought, figures. Today just had to be a Monday. I hate humans. Just as Amber was motioning to release the energy she had gathered, Fox flew down and elbowed the Half-Blood in the back of the head, hard enough to knock her out. Amber's arm dropped as she fell onto her knees. Then her body fell forward onto the ground and changed back into its normal state. Fox moved closer to Jewel to hug the other Half-Blood. She cried and said, "I'm so sorry, Jewel. Are you okay?" "I'm fine, Fox," Jewel replied, calming down as she reverted back to her normal form. At the same time, she wrapped her arms around the Alicans and continued, "Thank you. Maybe now we can get her to calm down. I'm sorry I didn't step in earlier. I just didn't know what to do." "Don't feel bad. It's not your fault. Honestly, I figured no one was going to help, even Ray." The two laughed as I noticed Amber slowly moving to stand herself up, once again charging a large amount of energy into her right hand for an attack. However, it was far more powerful than the last one she tried for. I tried to go stop her as I said, "Damn it, what the hell are they doing?" At that point, my crappy recovery kicked in and caused me to cough up more blood. I knelt down to keep my blood from spitting over the wall, but I'm sure a little shower wouldn't hurt those idiotic humans below. Wolf moved to me and held onto my shoulders as she said, "Don't move, my lord, please. Your recovery isn't going to do you any good if you do irrational things like this." She then stood up and turned to step over the wall as she said, "I'll stop her, and she will get what's coming to her too." "Wolf, no." However, I couldn't stop the Alicans. Wolf had already jolted down to the park before I could speak to her. Then I thought, Creator, damn it, could things get any worse? Of course, I had to ask. This concludes the reading of Chapter 40. Thank you all for watching and listening. If you like what you've seen and heard, there will be a link to my physical works in the description below. That being said, stay safe, take care, and we'll see you again next week, reading Chapter 41.